Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video.
Hey there, Rulers, DMO73 here, bringing you a feature match for the week between myself on a Harvest Corrupt green, black, red Lich list versus Paul Clute on his green, white Haiku Hanzo Control list. As you can see, I am going to be going first in this game one. So yeah, the Harvest Corrupt Lich is making use of a couple of interesting packages that we've seen in regards to the red being the Satan primarily, and also just because the red commandment has such a powerful effect, and then the green primarily being used for Layla's, obviously, and all of Layla's effects. It is mostly a black deck, but it does have the commandments to go into the two colors. And obviously, the Haiku Hanzo Control list is a control list at heart, utilizing Paul's version uses a lot of different cats, but also uses things like Pastet and everything else to recycle your Kaguya's over and over again and set up for these really efficient haiku hits off of the Layla. So going right, there's the Kaguya. So going right in, we'll just do that turn one Layla. It sets up very nicely for the deck. Obviously, we want to do like turn one Layla, turn two Altar potentially. We can also do some interesting plays with turn setting up for potentially a turn 3. This little transition here is because it had a little bit of a camera mishap, so still Paul's turn, nothing else has happened. He's going to go ahead and explore the unknown off the top, sees that Lorite. That Lorite might be an interesting decision to make this as his first turn play, in terms of something like Sandstorm and then Layla, Loriting the Layla. He'd still have one will open because of his Energize, and then he'd be sitting pretty nicely kind of ahead. So we'll have to see if he decides to do that this time or if he's just going to wait. Ultimately deciding just to pass the turn. Going to my turn. Playing another one, we're going to see Sephiroth. We're using the mode to corrupt, I believe, to force him to do a discard. So this will sit nicely later as a way for us to set up some uncancelables against, if we can get Athenia onto the board, especially against a control deck. It can be really nice. And then we're passing turn. So the pass here is primarily so that we can set up with a Power of Immortality play, which has potential in turn 3 to create some pretty interesting ramp, so some pretty fast ramp ahead, while also establishing not just an altar, but also some really interesting pressure thanks to Invitation to Purgatory, which we'll see here in a minute. So Paul sitting on 3 will here, all basic green at this point. Playing a Koga. So Koga makes for some repetitive, again, use of those Kaguyas for consistent cancels. And then choosing to pass the turn again, going into my turn. In the upkeep, we're going to go ahead and try to cast that Power of Immortality on the Layla, just setting it up now, so if he wants to burn something now, we're not as concerned. If he wants to use Sealing Scroll on this or something else like that to either tap himself out or burn a thing that we're more worried about having to deal with later, we'd be at advantage. Does decide to use the Sealing Scroll, which sets us up pretty nicely, because now we have access to Jet Black Wings pretty comfortably without having to worry about it. It is kind of the obvious one to have removed. We can also cast Invitation to Purgatory, which is another huge one. So this card is going to produce red and black. We're going to spend the red to use Satan's effect to remove him from the game. And so the way this all works is Satan's effect, he gets to get removed from the game. We send one card to the graveyard. Satan is removed from the game now, so Invitation to Purgatory lets us send a second card. So we're sending the black-red commandment because we can use him from the grave as a removal spell, and we're sending a Lucifer, so he'll sit on the board there. We also still have the floating black available, so we can use the floating black and the one remaining to also play altars. This is a pretty strong turn 3. Essentially, we set up the altar, we set up the Lucifer, we set up a removal spell, and we have Satan now who's going to start just generating value the more and more that we play. Paul's turn here, choosing to use the Sandstorm. We're going to respond to sacrifice it to altar. He's going to Layla the trigger, or sorry, he's going to Lorite the trigger to get a free stone. We're pretty okay with that. We still at least got a Lorite burned out here, and we forced him to use it on this, and then we also get the 1 counter up on the altar to be able to use it later. During the end phase, we're going to go ahead and use the Angel's effect here to burn myself for 2, which will then tick up Satan, and then try to kill the cat for 4 -4 defense to prevent him from having access to white. Ultimately choosing to use the last remaining will outside of his Energize to remove it from the game with Koga, which again is fine for me because it means he still only has access to 1 will and also loses access to white for the turn. Freed from the altar here. Added benefit in that it turns on Satan's effect, ramps him up 1 counter essentially because we lose life as a part of the effect. Going to go grab another Layla. Paying 1 for the Layla. Choosing to immediately sacrificing it and attempting to get another stone. And then coming down with a mana transmuter. So the mana transmuter here, we can pay life, which is great because that also just continually ticks up Satan, and then we can pay a black and kind of continue the ramp. So we're going to now have the ability to play red and black. So potentially even next turn we might be playing the Satan if we need it, because we have access to red and black, and we also can be kind of continuously putting counters on it, thanks to the handy dandy mana transmuter as well as the new Fiery Vengeance on the field, because we can get that to our grave at instant speed if we need to, thanks to his tap effect. Chooses to use Snipe Away Me. Ultimately, we're just going to go ahead and sacrifice it to the altar instead, because at this point in time, having access to 3 counters on the altar is a pretty good bet. Attempting to use the altar here is going to flash in the Lorite. So we're going to lose those 3 counters, which is fine. But again, now he's only at 3 will and still no access to any white. So we kind of get a free turn to do kind of whatever we want. We're going to play this Astema. So we will drain and gain. So finally getting some damage there. And then we'll pay the other 4, which will then go up 1 on Satan here. And we'll get to draw a card. So the kind of whole point is we're trying to have this passive kind of boss monster sitting in the background, and we want him to feel kind of pressured by it. Swinging in with Mana Transmuter, ultimately trying to use a table flip here to stop it. Not a card I was necessarily expecting in this meta, but paying 3 life to produce a black before he would die, and then using that 1 black to cast a Layla. Then ultimately at that point we're going to go ahead and pass the turn. Choosing to burn his Energize and 1 green to flash in the cat. Wondering if I want to use my Divine Angel from the grave before we go to his turn and he potentially has access to white again. Ultimately seeing a better play line here that you'll see in just a minute. saying I don't have anything else at the end of your turn. I'm going to let him draw for turn, and then since he's currently tapped out, we're going to go ahead and cast Jet Black Wings before he gets to recover. No way to save his stuff, and he's got this permanent -6/-6 on the board, which prevents him from setting up another a cat, any kind of small creature. So it gives me a much more kind of pressured board state, because now he has to just say Call Stone Pass, which is fine, especially because I have creatures on board, so I'm also fine, just kind of swinging with what I have, applying basic pressure, and also getting to a point where I'm probably just going to go Call Stone Pass. You see I have a Sephiroth in hand, so I can cast that, draw another card, kind of just keep the value train going for a small amount of will, while continuing to ramp and just stay ahead. Paying 4 life here to Astema to draw a second card. Ultimately going up to, I believe now we're at 7 counters on the Satan. Playing a Sephiroth, choosing to harvest, so I get to draw a card. Playing a Sephiroth, choosing to harvest another card. So this is going to be really interesting at the point where if I can get to the green black commandment or get an Athenia out on board, this is now 3 uncancelable resonators, which feels very, very good in this potential board state. Using March of the Dead to try to bring back the Fallen Angel of Demonic Vengeance, so that we have access to at least red, and then saying, well, let's swing in with Astema, takes the damage, goes down to 28. And then you do see we have that vampire there who now gives us access to green. So if we can get an Athenia, the new green-black Athenia, on board, we are now sitting at potentially 3 uncancelable resonators. But at that point in time, seeing that board state, Paul's just actually going to go ahead and just scoop it up, knowing that he can't really do anything about it. And we're going to go ahead and move into game 2.
As we go into the next game, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell down below so you're notified when all of our videos goes live, and consider supporting the channel by being a member here on YouTube or checking it out on Patreon for all the cool exclusive perks that come with supporting us. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to the next game.
So in game 2 here, I believe Paul choosing to take the draw again. Makes sense if he's the control deck. He kind of wants to maybe punish the early game. Out comes out that turn 1 Layla. We potentially see, you see he has the Lorite in hand, potentially seeing the Sandstorm Lorite play as well. Not a bad move to make against this match, although ultimately it can tap him out and give me some potential interesting options. It's just a matter of how important he thinks me turning on that Layla is, or whether or not he might as well wait to use those resources until as a punish for when I maybe invest more resources into it. Ultimately deciding to do the same play, Sandstorm, tap 1, play Lorite to stop it, and then exploring the unknown afterwards to maybe refill his hand with potential second Lorite, and then passing the turn. Playing March of the Dead, attempting to bring back the Layla. The hand is just kind of that suboptimal that we need to be bringing that Layla back, so we can try to set up for the same thing we did last time, of that pretty similar play, right? Of the power of the undead into Crimson, into Purgatory, into Altar, into Sack Cycle, all kinds of stuff. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to try to Power of Immortality here. Before recovery, he says, sure, that's fine. I don't think I'm going to stop it this time. Choosing to play just a hard cast and Altar here. And then a really strong play. So I should have done the cycle a little bit differently. It would have been much better for me if I had done the Invitation to Purgatory first. So now I've kind of wasted that Power of Immortality, unfortunately, because the Altar got canceled by Kaguya, and he is at Rune too. Now you're going to see me play this Fallen Angel of Demonic Vengeance, and you're going to see a slight fade there in the edit. We did a slight play error that we kind of rewound and put us back in the proper board state after I did that demonic angel. So this is the proper board state. All I did was play the fallen angel and then just pass. So Paul really capitalizing on what he saw in that game 1 to adjust his playline for game 2. And thankfully seeing a Kaguya this time around to be able to actually start canceling things. Choosing to use the Snipe Away Me, I do get a stone. Doesn't have another Lorite to stop it, and before it recovers, or before the Snipe Away actually happens, I'm going to go search for another Fallen Angel with Demonic Vengeance. Keep the cycles alive. They just turn into removal spells after they die, and then swing in with Kaguya, taking me down to 33. Swinging in with the cat, taking me down to I'm attempting, in response to the swing of the cat, to pay myself 2 and kill the cat. Rather than take 4. So the thing is half damage kill thing. Ultimately he says, yeah, that's fine. So a 1/1 cat's gonna come out, and then he just has another cat to follow it up. At this point in time though, he's burned his Energize, so I don't have to be as worried about a cancel this next turn. I still have to deal with Sealing Scroll though, and potentially is leaving up Will for a Fairer spell. So we're gonna try to see if we can get Invitation to Purgatory to go off. Maybe this can turn into a bait on the Sealing Scroll. Paul says, no, that's fine. You can have. After the Purgatory play, thanks to the Floating Will, paying 3 to bring out another Fallen Angel, keeping that cycle going, just trying to potentially reestablish a little bit more, and again start paying for that Satan that's been removed from game. Whispers before the upkeep. To 48, gets him to draw him another card. Paul feeling very much more in control in this game. He's got the established board. He's got plenty of cancel will. He doesn't have to worry about trying to come back or reestablish. He's done some pretty good disruptions on my side of the field. Just swinging in again with the Kaguya here, down to 21. So end of turn, paying to go down to 19, trying to kill the filter. Instead, we're gonna see a Bastet come in and bounce the token, which will then pump up all of the cats, +2/+2, all other cats. And then in response to the Bastet coming in, we're going to try to get a double whammy here by using the one that I have on field, tapping Banishing, and going to go search for another copy of it, which I don't think I have any at this point. I might have one left, but then having that engraved would pay 2 again and kill the Bastet, so then we can kill both of them. And in response to that, he's going to sacrifice a stone to give Bastet the barrier. So ultimately didn't work out super great for me. Everything's still on board. We did make him lose a stone, but he did tap one, so it doesn't really work out too great in our favor. Still feeling pretty far behind at this point, and pretty low on life with what's currently represented on board. And now all of those cats, the cat that is the 1-drop cat is now a 6/6, paying 3 life, going down to 14. Going down to produce a black, which will then we'll play Freed from the Altar, and that'll take us down to a grand. And what you're about to see here is actually an executed play mistake. So I go and search for something. I try to think about like playing this Athenia, and I had somewhere in the line of actually playing the game, I had counted what my current life total is. So you're gonna see me pay, discard, and try to bring back the Lucifer from my graveyard. Technically can't do that. Regardless, this game was practically over anyway, so it is going to be Paul's game. But that's one of the things here that I think it's important for people to recognize is I have no life to be able to play this Lich and kill myself. Right now, it is very, very vitally important that you track everything in this game. You really need to have notes, especially life total notes, because you're seeing us walk through this, but there's a grave play there, which technically gives Paul the game here. Ultimately, he does go on to win that game, so it didn't really matter. Within like 2 turns, I think the game was over, but it was technically over right there because of my play error with the Lucifer not tracking my life total correctly. So now we are in the 3rd of 3 games. I'm going to be on the play again, still choosing not to take the play. Seemed to work out well for him so far. First turn Sephiroth, so a little bit of a different turn 1 here. Coming down on his side, he doesn't have a way to, doesn't need to do Sandstorm Altar or Sandstorm Lorite, so just going to play his guy to give himself filter. And then on my turn, we're going to play both of my, which is a mistake because I know he's playing Snipe Away Me. Sees the white stone off the top. Rapid Fire Me. So 1 Rapid Fire Me for 1 will is going to kill both of these guys, which was a big play mistake on my side. And it does tap me out. Thankfully, I can at least search for another Fallen Angel, and it will let me kill his commandment, most likely. But still, didn't need to give him such an unnecessary advantage on turn 1 that could have easily just left 1 open and made Rapid Fire Me much less effective. Choosing to swing in on his turn for that 4. Ultimately, we're going to try to kill it by banishing. And then he flashes in using the Energize, flashes in Bastet to save it, and then goes to my turn. So 3 wills sitting up. You'd see he only has the 1 white will, so that feels pretty comfortable to me. Potentially working on getting out the... I don't have the will to be able to play the... Invitation to Purgatory, which would be nice because you see I have that Mana Transmuter in hand. I wouldn't have the will to be able to play it and Mana Transmuter, which is a little unfortunate, but we can at least play the Mana Transmuter out and kind of continue our curve ahead of time, paying a little bit of life early on, also to potentially set up the Layla plays, which would be very nice. So Mana Transmuter comes in, we're going to pay 3 life for it, produce black, and then play the Fallen Angel of Demonic Vengeance to set up for the next turn. Whispers of the Angels coming in for giving up to 4,800 since he has that access to that white during the recovery phase. Choosing to play the Koga. With Bastet, it makes for some really interesting protection shenanigans. See, he has that Lord in hand. He has a table flip, so he feels probably pretty comfortable here, having access to the 1 white to be able to use Koga if needed, the 1 green to be able to play any of the other 1-drop green cancels in his hand, and then Bastet just kind of sitting there looking pretty. Also looks like he has a Fair spell as well. End of my turn, or end of his turn, we're going to pay 3 life to try to produce black to do Power of Immortality during his turn to then sacrifice the demonic Fallen Angel Demonic Vengeance, get a free one, and then bring it back during the end phase of his turn. This is kind of a bait play to say like, hey, do you got any cancels for this? I'm going to try to generate some free value here at the end of the turn, go to my turn, and see what kind of sticks. There definitely comes a point when playing this deck where you kind of just accept the fact that Layla isn't going to be getting what it needs to be. So you do need to be able to be willing to use that Power of Immortality for other things. Paying 3 life here, attempting to play the Layla. He is going to Lorite to the trigger to prevent him from being able to harvest and corrupt, and that's fine. I see that's no big deal. So instead, we'll just go ahead and use Sephiroth, produce green, so that we can have this uncancelable, not that he has the will to do it, a second Layla. So now we will be able to tap him down, and we'll be able to recover some of our stones and make a pretty decent play for the next turn. The other nice thing is here, because it recovers the 3 stones, is you see we have that Lucifer in hand. But it also just lets us be able to potentially just sit and do whatever we need to do. And then thanks to Mana Transmuter, we still have green potentially to make use of Layla's effects, activate effect. So using 2 of those stones to do Invitation to Purgatory, setting that up. Seeing if that's going to get Sealing Scrolled or not. Says, no, that's fine, I'm not going to stop it. So we get to start setting up for Satan plays again. And the whole purpose of Satan, like I said, in this deck is just to sit there. So he just kind of passively generates advantage as the deck is naturally doing what it's trying to do. And then eventually sometimes you just get to land it, this big heavy hitter that puts out a ton of pressure, forcing your opponent to kind of board wipe, and then also giving you just this big reanimated board, using that 1 floating and then the 1 that is still remaining to play the altar. So now I'm feeling even more comfortable because now I'm ahead on curve, I'm ahead on being able to remove his graveyard, I can recycle my own stuff if I need to, and I have access to altar, so I have a little bit of dodging potentially available to me too, and my pay effect is up. A Kaith Sith coming down here, generating some other cats. They are going to get that +2/+2 from Bastet. Just kind of setting up a nice little wall. And you see he does have that 2 wheel available up to be able to potentially play a Kaguya. One in time just having to pass. During the upkeep, we're going to pay to try to kill the Bastet. Says that's fine, that's gonna die. I think he flashed it underneath Koga, actually, which leaves him up with just the 1. Paying 3 here as well to try to just hard cast a Lucifer. So the Lucifer is great because at the end of the turn, I'll get that 3 back. Swinging in for 8 with the Athenia. Says that's fine, I'll take it, go down to 40. Swinging in for another 8 with the second Athenia. Now he could choose to spend his 1 remaining green here to do the table flip, but ultimately just choosing to let it go. Paying 1 to do Freed from the Altar. I'll lose 400 life, but thanks to Lucifer, as long as he survives, I'll get it back. And we come down with an Asthma. And at the end of the turn, the gain is going to come back into play, and I get to gain, potentially, would gain 7 back. Thanks to the, I would get to gain 9 back because I did it during the upkeep. Ultimately choosing to flash in the Lorite to stop that from happening, which I think is fair. I'm getting all that value without having to worry risk paying for it is definitely a valid reason, and that's one of the ways you can stop Lucifer is in response to his trigger to gain all the stuff back. You just Lorite it. You can also kill Lucifer before the end phase. You can do all kinds of stuff to stop it. But ultimately now just sitting pretty comfortably, having access to multiple colors of will, having access to the ability to remove stuff, recycle stuff, sack stuff to alter if I need to, spot removal from the demonic angel, all while having a really solid blocker. See, we have looks like two different table flips in hand. Now we're setting up so that our greenstones are all white. Fortunately, doesn't look like Paul has a Kaguya at this point, so might just call stone and pass, or play this guy and then pass to kind of bluff the idea of having a Kaguya while also representing table flip so that I maybe don't try to push in. And then, like I said, yeah, potentially just passing the turn there. So going into my turn, before recovery, we're going to try to cast Cycle of Death. So this is a really interesting card to have here when we're also utilizing the altar. Has the Fair spell here, so at that point in time we're just going to leave our rune deck alone because we know he has Sealing Scroll to answer the last one. So there is no point in trying to use runes anymore. Calling for stone. Paying 3 life to go down to 17. To play an Asthma. So that'll drain me, go up to 22, he'll go down to 27, and then we'll pay 2 life, or pay 4 life, so technically we gained 1, to then draw a card off of the Asthma. So you have an Evil Elemental Uprising there, not that that really matters here at this point. Swinging in with the Athenia. Says that's fine. Oh no, choosing to play table flip instead, actually. We're okay with that. We're just going to go ahead and sacrifice it to altar. Ultimately, she's done her job at this point. Swinging in with the Fallen Angel, Demonic Angel of Vengeance here. That might not be the card's name. I apologize if I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Just swinging for 4. If he chooses to let it go through, that's great. If he chooses to not, then that's fine too. We just sacrifice it to altar. He does let it go through, down to 23. Playing another one here, so we don't really care about the one that's on field dying, potentially. Playing a Layla here. Choosing to swing in with the other Athenia. Decides to spend the other table flip. In response to that, we're going to go ahead and use Layla here to try to get a stone. We're going to sacrifice the other one to the altar. And then we're going to crack the altar here for a 3-drop. So we are going to get Lich. Making sure he doesn't have green so we can cancel that. We're going to go ahead and get Lich, who is going to let us do Harvest and Corrupt because of Athenia not being gone from the board yet. So we can bring the other Athenia back from the graveyard and force him to discard a card. Athenia is going to die. You see me swinging with the Astema here. Technically couldn't do that. Just came into play this turn. I think my thought was I could use the pay effect to burn him for 5. But ultimately, he knows that with the stuff that I have on board for removal-wise and being able to burn with it and get all my life back and everything else, Paul is actually just going to concede the game here in just a second. So, again, remember what you played that turn. That was an unintentional play mistake here as well. That could not have possibly attacked this turn. But Paul is going to just go ahead and say, you know what, you got it. I'll draw for turn, see what I got, and then just to be safe, but it is probably going to be game. Does finally see that Kaguya, but Kaguya doesn't really do much against a board state that's already really established. And Paul knows also just that next turn, if he doesn't have access to a flyer, I mean, like he has to be able to kill those flyers this turn, and I have 3 blockers to get in the way, and so he just doesn't have a way to deal with the flyers. And so eventually they're just going to be able to run him over, especially since Astema can just pay life to kill him. So that is going to be a concession from Paul, and that is the match. Hope you guys enjoyed it despite the play errors, seeing some fun new interactions. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Deck list, as always, will be up later this week, and until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.